Welcome back to another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. This is Steve Gamache, and what we have this time is the a really nice line of knife. This is the Konosuke Sumiiro SLD Gyuto 210 millimeter knife. So the way these are made, there's a little bit more on these on the website web page you're on if you're looking at this probably. But what they do is take SLD semi-stainless tool steel, and they heat treat it pretty high to 65 Rockwell. It's really quite high, and to give it extended edge retention. And they coat that, or clad that I should say, with a soft stainless cladding on either side of that core steel. So you got full stainless over semi-stainless, and they put a Kudauchi or KU protective kind of finish on it with a Nishiji, kind of a pear skin modeled finish on it. These are gorgeous knives in person. Fair amount of polish to the blade grind, you can see there. We'll try the best we can to show the cladding line. But just beautifully crafted knives. They can vary a little bit from knife to knife with the weights and dimensions, but this particular one is 161 grams or 5.7 ounces. Edge length is right about 213 millimeters or 8.4 inches. The overall length is about 366 millimeters or 14.4 inches with these handles. And these do come in different handles. These are fairly thick coming out of that handle, the tang area, into the back of the knife down to the mid part. But they thin out pretty quick. So I got 4+ millimeters, like 4.2 back here above the heel, but then it went down to about 2.4 halfway down. And if you look closely, it starts to kind of taper down a little bit and thin out just a little bit as you go. And then it starts to obviously thin out when you hit the grind. And that's pretty easy to see based on that KU finish, the Kudauchi finish, and then the grind. And that's a good shot of the cladding line there, the core steel. So they do thin out pretty nice at the very tip. So the performance is quite good, and will be quite good. I've not used these. These are not inexpensive, so I'm not going to play with this one, but they thin out nicely at the edge as well, even though they're fairly stout at the spine. What that does do is give you a stiff blade with still very good performance. Blade height is almost 46 millimeters on this sample, 45.8. And the handles are, again, there's different versions of handles on these, but this particular one has a D-shaped, what they call burnt chestnut with buffalo horn ferrule, and really nice fit and finish on these handles. This whiter spot here is just where they've sanded it down to meet the buffalo horn. I think it looks really cool, plus it gives you a nice smooth transition between the two. So beautifully executed handles. Very nice tight glue up job where they go into, where the tang goes into the handle. Personally, I'm a lefty, so I don't really have a problem with D-shaped handles. They're kind of oriented around a right-hander's grip, but for a lefty, I really don't have an issue with them. That bulge right there on the D shape just kind of goes in between where I'm going to work it anyway. So if you're a lefty, I wouldn't let that bother you, the D-shaped handle. Circumference on that's about 72 millimeters or 2.8 inches where the two materials meet. And then what else here? Let's look at the get our beauty shot going here. So these are just beautifully made. They're very straight, very clean grinds. You can tell they put a lot of effort into making these, and there's a lot of experience here. On the left side or the right side of the blade, they do have hand engraved kanji. It's a little hard to tell with the Kudauchi finish there, but you can run your fingers over it and feel it. You've got kind of a Nishiji or pear skin texture to it, and then your Kudauchi finish there. Obviously quite a bit of polish to the blade grind, and there's your cladding line. So real pretty knives. They polish the spines to get the contrast between the Kudauchi black finish and the polished spine, so it makes that pop. Every knife will be a little bit unique in the finish. So here's the left side of the blade. Again, kind of a KU finish. It's fairly smooth, but with a little bit of texture when you run your fingers across it. Again, just great craftsmanship. They have done their usual nice job of rounding and polishing the spine, and then rounding and polishing the choil. That takes a fair amount of work to do all that, and they've done a great job, so they're super nice on fit and finish. The edge I'll give maybe 6, 7 out of 10 on my scale. It's quite sharp, a nicely crafted edge bevel on these out of the box, and so I think they're pretty well ready to rock and roll. This SLD steel is treated very high hardness, so it's going to take a little bit more work to sharpen, but you will be, granted extended edge retention because of that. Let's look at the cutting board profile. So what we've got is an extremely useful profile with different characteristics in different parts of the blade. So you can see we've got a roughly midpoint, maybe slightly below midpoint tip on there. And what that does is give us decent height on a rock. I can actually get pretty darn high on there. And I can get up in there, and it flows into a good kind of flattish heel area. About the last 40% of the blade is a nice flat spot, and it flows beautifully into there. Sometimes what you get on these higher end knives that are more expensive is you get more attention to detail on things like the edge profile, where they take great care to give you a smooth, really well done profile that just flows like butter, if the saying goes, like butter. So it flows really nicely into that stop, and you've got a great section for chopping back there, mid belly here, a little bit more belly towards the tip, so just a ton going on here. And this thing will work for just about any technique. So you've got different parts of the blade will do different things for you. So that's about as versatile a profile as you're going to see in a 210. So just beautiful craftsmanship, great steel, unique looking, just really nicely cosmetically as well as performance. So this is the Konosuke Sumiiro SLD Gyuto 210mm knife with the burnt chestnut handle.